So, in a very interesting turn of events, I did not see happening. We are having to talk about this man, this attorney, Tyrone Blackburn. This guy is everywhere. And now we're hearing about how Tyrone Blackburn was involved not only with the Diddy trial, because we know Tyrone has been doing this thing and filing lawsuits against Diddy, but when it comes to this lawsuit against Cassie that involved an escort, we talked about him, Mr. Clayton Howard, and what he had going on. So we're going to talk about it here. We're going to look exactly what Clayton Howard was alleging Tyrone Blackburn did in his lawsuit. If y'all saw, or if you missed the first video where we talked about this, make sure you go back and watch that video, because we actually break down everything that's in the lawsuit, what's being alleged that Cassie did, what's being alleged that Diddy did, and what Mr. Clayton Howard had to deal with. Now, he did file this lawsuit pro se. And the reason he did that is because he's alleging certain things were going on behind the scene, not only with the department, not the Department of Defense, but essentially the federal government in trying to bring these charges against Diddy, but with his own attorney at the time, Tyrone Blackburn. So let's go ahead. We're actually going to hear from Mr. Howard, thanks to TMZ, see what they're talking about. And then I will take you guys to the lawsuit and we'll look at exactly what Clayton Howard is saying that Tyrone Blackburn did. Check this out.
One, I was in an economic position where I really needed the money. Two, Mr. Combs is incredibly powerful, and Ms. Ventura had no problem ending her use of that power, which has actually been revealed now because we've heard recordings of her threatening people. We've seen text messages. There are many different sides to people, and even Cassie is a normal individual. She has herself. There's a side to her that people don't, the side that manipulated Sean Combs' power, the side that embraced his power and his position to do things that she wanted. So I was always afraid if I stopped coming, then I would start having problems, because she threatened me several times to come and made me feel uncomfortable that I would come to see her just to avoid any problem with Sean Combs. He's incredibly powerful. He has people that could follow me around, damaging my life for years, and it would cost him nothing to do.
That's what a lot of people say.
I want to say I continued in the situation, but not as much. There was many times that I did stall them, flake on them, as the word goes, and not show up. But I kept the relationship strong enough that they never thought I was trying to turn on them or betray their secrets. I have been trying to file litigation for this matter against Sean Combs and Cassie since, I want to say, March of 2024, maybe February. But I was represented by Tyrone Blackburn. And Blackburn has a substantial amount of litigation against Sean Combs that the conviction of Sean Combs was dependent on him winning a lot of his civil cases. My attorney intentionally held the filing back to protect the credibility of Cassie. Tyrone Blackburn, he intentionally held it back. I have numerous communications to him where I am directly informing him to file. He would talk to the prosecutors, and then he would duck me for weeks and not file the lawsuit. So this is why
it's crazy, guys. We talked about this when I read the lawsuit, and I had no idea it was Tyrone Blackburn. Now that we're hearing this, it basically backs up everything I was saying in that video, where I said it looks like what happened is the federal government talked to this man's attorney and say, hey, y'all need to chill on these lawsuits, especially lawsuits that mention Cassie. You know why? Because Cassie is our star witness, and we don't want anything coming out that the defense can use and say, oh, look at this. Cassie's not a victim. There's been several people who are alleging that Cassie was actually the one who was behind a lot of the debauchery that was going on, right? So now Clayton Howard is actually backing up that theory and saying his attorney, Tyrone Blackburn, would go and talk to the prosecutors, and then he would just ignore he would ignore Clayton's phone calls. I want to see these text messages too. I know they'll come out in evidence.
Was never filed. I feel he was working with them. He had conversations with them without me. He literally would disobey my direct instruction. I'm the client. I'm the one who's supposed to direct my attorney to make decisions. If I tell you to exercise a statute for a claim, as my attorney, you can either quit or you can do it. What Tyrone did was duck me into the statute of the Gender Motivated Violence Act that's expired this year, in March. He ducked me until maybe 48 hours before the expiration of the statute. So I wouldn't have enough
Wow.
time to draft the complaint that I filed myself that you found me with now. If the
Wow. If he can prove that, this might be the final nail in the coffin for Tyrone Blackburn. Guys, this is huge that his attorney was just ignoring him. And then he's saying this, the time limit on the statute ran out. He's supposed to be protecting his client's rights, not putting them at risk.
U.S. Attorney's Office knows all of this and investigated her. And instead of prosecuting her, allowed her to have immunity and didn't prosecute her. Me going after her for criminal charges kind of makes like vindictive. And I don't want that. That's the mission of my lawsuit. The mission of my lawsuit is to obtain justice for the things that I truthfully know Cassandra did. It's not about having her put in prison. I don't want to destroy her life. She has 3 beautiful children. She seems happily married. The truth of the matter is, she never
that change what she did?
This facade of a lie. I would never be talking about this. I would never. No one would ever believe me that I had the relationship I had with Cassie. Cassie is the one who brought me forward. She did this to herself. I told the U.S. Attorney's Office the truth of both parties, that they were co-conspirators. They were involved. They verified hotel locations. I saw text messages between me and Cassie. The U.S. Attorney's Office knew that Cassie was criminally complicit, but Sean Combs was more important, so they totally ignored it. It makes no sense for me to try to get criminal charges. They don't care about male victims. They care about empowering Cassie, and forgive me for saying this, with the Me Too movement.
Facts, man. Shout out to Clayton Howard. On point. We said this before. And God, it's not in this, in my opinion, it shouldn't be a male versus female thing. It's a who's the victim and who is actually the aggressor. And for some reason, I guess because they needed her as a star witness in this losing case that they had, the federal government decided not to involve Cassie in this indictment. And if you guys are angry and if you want to call it rich man justice, as Nancy Grace did, why are we not talking about Cassie getting immunity? Why? Do you really care about victims, or did you just want to see Diddy buried under the ground? And understandably so. I'm not arguing that. If you feel that way, fine. But why are we going to hold everybody accountable? We've seen evidence upon evidence upon evidence that Cassie was just not purely a victim here. And we're just letting that go. Some of y'all are just letting that go. I won't. We're not going to do that here. And we're going to talk about Tyrone Blackburn's part in this here in just a second. So check this out. This is going back to Clayton Howard's immaculately written lawsuit against Cassie. Again, he filed this and wrote this pro se. He did it all on his own. And he lays out exactly why Tyrone Blackburn did him dirty and what happened. And he's saying he has receipts. He's got text messages and cell phone logs. We'll have to see what happened here. If you go to this section 6, it says Mr. Howard cooperates with the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. What happened? In mid-December 2023, agents from the Department of Homeland Security investigators contacted Mr. Howard regarding his encounter with Mr. Combs and Cassie, requesting that he come in for an interview. Having no experience in law at the time, Mr. Howard contacted his local criminal attorney, who was also not an expert in federal criminal law. Y'all can guess who that is. In response, the U.S. Attorney's Office provided counsel to advise and represent Mr. Howard during the interview for legal purposes. Jeez. Mr. Howard spent the next year and a half as a cooperating government witness for the Southern District of New York. Mr. Howard provided airline payment receipts, boarding passes, dates, and photos of hotels to the government. More importantly, Mr. Howard provided corroboration of illegal activities. Mr. Howard could only corroborate a decade of illegal activity beginning in 2009 and concluding in late 2019. During this time period, Mr. Howard witnessed assaults against Cassie, drug use and illegal activity, and witnessed. Okay, I don't know what's going on there. Mr. Howard was additionally drugged by both Cassie and Diddy on 2 separate occasions. But they don't want to talk about Cassie drugging somebody, right? Let's just give her immunity. No big deal. Mr. Howard was the male provider who impregnated Cassie after an encounter in October 2013. As the interview process progressed, Mr. Howard was asked for details as he recalled them. Prosecutor Maureen Comey assisted Mr. Howard in a mention of the recollection by instructing him during an interview to write down his memories as he recalled them due to the length of time that had elapsed since the conclusion of the relationship. Mr. Howard could then use these notes and present them to prosecutors who fact-checked the dates and locations for evidence that supported all his allegations. The U.S. attorney was able to establish Mr. Howard's credibility after investigating his claims. Oh my. Now I'm wishing we would have read this entire lawsuit live, because Clayton Howard is alleging that the U.S. attorney took everything that he said and admitted that it's credible. They signed off on it, which means that the U.S. attorney's office knew, and this is obvious, that Cassie had been an aggressor, that Cassie victimized someone, and as alleged by Mr. Howard here, victimized him. But they decided to let that go. They needed a star witness. And we have Cassie Ventura on the stand crying and talking about how much of a victim she was and pretending like Mr. Howard doesn't exist. This fact alone, if true, it really brings a lot of credibility to this lawsuit. And I think it's interesting that, again, so many people aren't talking about this, but we're here to find out about Tyrone Blackburn. So let's keep it going. We know Cassie is disgusting. The U.S. attorney verified encounters at the Gramercy Park Hotel in New York, the Handren Hotel, and other hotels. I'm not going to read all of them because I'm going to mispronounce their names. Mr. Howard verified the SA allegation within this complaint when he provided supporting travel fare receipts for his departure and arrival flights to Los Angeles on the morning he was assaulted. He's got the receipts, guys. As the investigation continued, the U.S. attorney became aware of criminality in the actions of Cassie. Because Cassie was not the target of the investigation, Mr. Howard's allegations against her were not acted upon. Attorneys provided by the U.S. attorney worked to dissuade Mr. Howard from filing civil action against Mr. Combs and Cassie. Told you. What? The attorneys argued all allegations against Cassie would expose her to criminal liability and therefore might damage her credibility as a witness and her public image. Jesus. Mr. Howard, as the client, directly instructed attorney Tyrone Blackburn to file his action against the defendants before the expiration of a statute made available to adult survivors of SA in New York. Mr. Blackburn began as directed by first contacting attorney Douglas Wingdor, seeking to quietly settle litigation with Cassie and offering her an opportunity to avoid exposure to all allegations once the lawsuit was made public after filing. Instead of Mr. Wingdor embracing this opportunity to protect his client's image from all allegations he knew to be true, he sought the assistance of the U.S. attorney to dissuade Tyrone Blackburn from filing until after the criminal trial of Sean Combs. What? Y'all need to pray for Clayton Howard. This man needs to be protected because he knows too much. He's seen too much. And y'all know, you've seen how Cassie is. You think she wants to give up $1 of that $20 million plus $10 million settlement she got? Oh, hell no. Yikes. The decision, although it protected Cassie's credibility before the trial, compromised Mr. Howard's legal action within the state of New York. Filing after the trial would mean Mr. Howard would lose his right to action in the state of New York under the applicable statute being used at the time. The time ran out, like he said. A calculated and coordinated effort has been made to protect Cassie from criminal liability that can be established. In protecting Cassie, the civil rights of Mr. Howard and other potential victims of Cassie who may exist and are entitled to civil action against her as their offender have been compromised. Their offender has been compromised. Cassie claims to have been forced, but despite her alleged trauma, she willingly and intentionally victimized, manipulated, and harmed others. Where are the Cassie apologists at now? They're awfully quiet right now about this. Don't y'all find that strange? Mr. Howard is entitled to justice under the same laws that provided justice to Cassie. No, it only applies to women. Sorry about that. Mr. Combs, Diddy, and Cassie should be held accountable for their actions jointly based on Mr. Howard's verified encounters and personal experiences and should not be minimized due to the allegations, the alleged victimhood of Cassie. Based on the factual allegations presented above, Mr. Howard incorporates all facts as his basis for the causes of actions listed below. Mr. Howard seeks the justice of this court to provide that which has been denied by those who seek to conceal the truth in order to protect false information provided by the defendants. Boy, no wonder he's having trouble finding an attorney. To go up against a U.S. attorney, it's not going to be fun. Although he has the receipts and hopefully he kept copies of them. He just didn't say, oh yeah, guys, here's my original receipts for all the travel and everywhere I've been. Because then that's just going to be a tough look for him. It makes me wonder why no one else has taken this case. I mean, again, as I said, I hate to say it, where's Tony Busby at? I mean, Tony Busby, this should seem like an easy win. So I just feel like there's some type of information missing here. I do look forward to and want to hear a response from Cassie's camp because they have to say something. I'm sure Diddy's camp will be speaking out about this as well. Y'all have to let me know what you think about this. Cassie's it seems like she's gonna end up having to give up some of that money she got. Maybe it'll all fall on Diddy. I don't know. Y'all let me know what you think about this in the comments and in the chat.